the end?
It might have been. I
I
can't
believe it was
remember.
Jericho and Punk on the ladder at the end, and Jericho was reaching up, and Punk kicked his leg through the rung and kind of had him hung up there. And from my recollection, it's the first time I saw anything like that happen in a ladder match. So I thought the finish was inventive, and it was, it's like they always say, like watching a car crash. I think it's a dick comment, but it's going to be a high spot match. Now, the problem with that is when you go back to back gimmick matches, you need is it fair to say you would need a buffer match?
Well, you probably want to, yeah, you want to do something to kind of go away from the ladders and the weapons and the no DQ stuff. So you'd want to do something different than that, sure.
Well, they sure did, and they went into the Battle of the Brands, which was Batista versus a certain Umanga. As Teddy Long was at the helm of SmackDown, William Regal was there for Monday Night Raw, and they had they each took a professional wrestler, a representative, and for brand supremacy, if you will. And I don't dislike Batista as much as many people do, and I was actually a big fan of Umanga, and this match was atrocious. It felt like it never got out of first gear. It was disjointed. There were blown spots. The powerbomb to finish the match, Batista won. I was even okay with the powerbomb because it didn't look perfect, because Batista always had the most awkward sit-out powerbomb I've ever seen in my entire life. No matter who he did it to, it was awkward. The finish to this one, he pretty much John Cena'd him, where he had him up for the powerbomb and he lost his balance, and as he fell back, he slammed him down, which is cool because you're kind of playing off of how big Umaga is. But throughout the entire match, there was no heat. The crowd didn't care at all, and they didn't really say anything. Correct me if I'm wrong, about what the winner got, right?
No, I don't think there was really much on the line other than quote unquote bragging rights, I guess. So it was just a situation where each general manager picked a representative from their show, and they went head to head in this match. But I agree with you. I when I watched it back 10 years ago and when I watched it here last week, the match was a little disappointing, I think, given that these two guys are, Umaga was at a point where he was having good matches with some main event level guys for a little while, and Batista had always been in, title matches for a long while on SmackDown to this point. And it was definitely did not deliver as much as I think people had hoped that it would. There was, I think even towards the end, like you were saying, the crowd was starting to boo Batista a little bit, just for, I don't know if it was maybe the match was just not living up to what they wanted it to be. So, this one kind of fell a little flat. But like you said, Batista won, so I guess SmackDown gets the bragging rights, and that was pretty much that. It was less than 10 minutes at least, and then we moved on to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to throw this out there. The least they could have done, like the bragging rights match, maybe. Whatever brand won, that's who main evented WrestleMania. Or whatever brand won, that's who got the number 30 pick in the Royal Rumble. Something like that to at least get you emotionally invested. There was just nothing. I don't care about a feud between Teddy Long and William Regal. So
yeah.
Sorry to cut you. Oh, speaking of junk, there was a battle royal on the pre-show, and the winner was going to become number one contender for the bullshit WWE, make this explicit, for the WWECW World Heavyweight title. I believe Chavo Guerrero was champion at the time, which is fine.
Is it fine with you?
No, Joe. No, it's not fine. Chavo is a very competent wrestler. He was always a good wrestler, but he wouldn't be who I would have to represent my brand. And I sure as hell wouldn't have my champion get pinned in 8 seconds by Kane to have Kane as the new ECW World Heavyweight Champion. That was just if the coffin wasn't dead and buried already, this was the legitimate final nail in the coffin for ECW.
Yeah, I think by this point in time for this version of ECW, right, the WWE version of it. By this point, I think it was past the feeling like Heyman was gone, right? So the idea of it maybe being like a breeding ground for younger guys and guys to get put over was kind of not there anymore. As per Chavo Guerrero was the world champion, and it went on to Kane, and then I think guys like Mark Henry would win it at points. So it just really wasn't. It was just kind of there, and yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where I guess they're looking for one of those memorable moments that maybe people would think about when they look at the show, but it kind of just makes the title look a little silly. Not to mention Chavo himself looking silly. I'm not sure if this was before or after. This was probably before he was losing to Hornswoggle on Raw every week, so. I guess he would go on to look even worse, but it was unfortunate. I mean, not that they would have had a great match if they went long, but I don't usually like to see title switches in like 10 seconds. That's kind of a bummer. So, but yeah, like you said, Kane won the Battle Royal before the show started and got this title match, and it lasted about 10 seconds. So that was that.
And then Raven Simone came out from That's So Raven.
Yeah. What? Oh, I'm sorry. You're not a Raven Simone fan?
I think she's on The View now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I hate The View. So, yeah, that's enough of that. So, next match on the card was the career-threatening match, Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels. The deal is Vince McMahon told Ric Flair he's too old and he is forced to retire once he loses his last match. I don't know when that angle started. I want to say around Christmas time. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. It was towards the end of 2007 for sure. Because I remember I went to the Royal Rumble in 2008, was at Madison Square Garden, and Flair fought MVP at that show. And I remember that was a career-threatening match. So that was in January. So I'm going to guess it was probably like maybe December-ish that they put that stipulation out there. And, he ended up having to win all of his matches until he lost, and then his career was over.
And that's where Shawn Michaels came in. I think Flair chose Michaels, correct?
Yeah, I think he's, the storyline was he wanted to fight Shawn. Yeah, he wanted to fight Mr. WrestleMania at the biggest show of the year, and if he couldn't do it, then he shouldn't be continuing to wrestle anyway, and stuff like that. And I think at first Shawn was reluctant because Shawn had made the announcement that Flair was going into the Hall of Fame this same weekend at WrestleMania. So he actually went to the Hall of Fame the night before. And kind of through that, Flair challenged him. And then eventually Shawn agreed. And the last show before Mania, they put a little extra heat on it. I think that was with Michaels referring to Flair as Old Yeller, I believe.
He was going to put him out at the pasture.
Yeah. So
this story was the match was masterful. And to me, I'm not the biggest Shawn Michaels guy.
Yeah.
But that listen, that being said, this to me, as everyone knows, I'm a huge New Japan guy. I'm a Young Buck guy and things like that. But you don't have to have amazing, brutal, crazy spots to have a good match. And at 134 years old, Ric Flair, through the storytelling of the ring, the emotion of the crowd, Michaels, selling his ass off too for him. This was every up and coming professional wrestler should watch this match because it's a story, and it's the athleticism is one part of it, but the other part is how well they worked with each other. There was emotion in the match. There was emotion from the crowd. There were Michaels did a ridiculous a springboard Asai moonsault, and he missed, and he cut himself in half on the announce table. So there were a couple of bumps like that, but for the most part, it was in the ring. It was old school Ric Flair. It was storytelling. It was peaks and valleys, and you're along for the ride. And Ric Flair even hit a cross body block off the top rope in the classic Ric Flair fashion. Michaels went to the top rope, and Flair crotched him and tossed him into the spot that always happens to Rick. And this match was fantastic. And, I could do without the Flair crying as he was getting pinned. That was a little that kind of ruined it a little for me. Maybe he could sell a little more, but Ric Flair is the most emotional probably guy ever. So 10 thumbs up for me. I thought it was a fantastic match.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was excellent. I mean, excellent for what you would expect out of it, right? I mean, Flair, I don't know exactly how old he was at this point. I'm going to say he was maybe like
34.
I was going to say maybe like 57 or something like that. So I don't know exactly how old he was, but it was around that age. And Michaels, I think, was in his early 40s. So I mean, given that and Flair's limitations, and after having wrestled for so many years, they had a really good match. I mean, obviously, like you said, it wasn't like a Matt classic in the sense that they had all these crazy counters and things that were going on, but the story that was in place leading up to it, and in the match, and the emotion, and Flair, his family was there, and everybody kind of getting I don't know, whatever mixed emotions, I guess, from people watching it. They were happy, they were sad, they were whatever. But I mean, I think for Flair's last match at that age, you're in the ring with one of the best guys that there's ever been. So I don't know that it could have gone any better for him. So I really thought it was. I think most people would say that they enjoyed it. This is one I guess I would like to hear your match rating for, since it was like a main event level match on this show. What would you give this match as far as a star rating?
Flair was 59, by the way, at times.
Okay, there you
go. Taking bumps I couldn't take right now at 31. This match, I'm going to go 4.25.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I think I was at like 3 3/4, or maybe I even just go 4 stars even, just to kind of to put that out there. I think it's not 6. Nope. That's not a choosable rating. That's not a real thing. I would go 4 stars even. I mean, I think it's, I'd be hard pressed to say it was like 5 stars, a perfect match, just because it's not, just because there's some limitations there. But I think that they did a lot of really, really, really good stuff. And like we said, it's just really good story. So I thought it was a really good match. Probably the best match on the card, certainly to this point.
Whoa. Best match on the card.
To this point.
Okay, good. Because the Ashley Massaro, Maria Kanellis versus Beth Phoenix and Melina Playboy Bunny Mania Lumberjill match. Slumber. I don't know. That, my friend, is the best match on the card. I'm not reviewing that, are you?
There's not much to say. I think just to your point, it shows how, to your point earlier, it shows how much women's wrestling has evolved in the last 10 years. Let's just maybe we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Don't have anything nice. Don't say anything nice to say. Don't say anything at all. I think that's how it is. It was 6 minutes long, which is 1 minute shorter than the Umanga match.
Yeah.
Next, Randy Orton versus John Cena versus Triple H. Randy Orton as champion for the WWE Championship. Snoop Dogg made out with Maria?
Yeah, I thought you said we weren't going to talk about that.
That kind of bothered me a little bit. All right. This match, if I was to tell you Randy Orton, John Cena, and Triple H were in a triple threat match for the title, you would think it probably, true or false, that it would go a little bit longer than 14 minutes.
Yeah, I would think so, considering most of Triple H's matches don't go less than 20. So
and another
I would have expected it to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This match, I thought it was a good match for the sole purpose that it was fast. There wasn't a lot of boring spots. The crowd was very behind Cena at this point. They started out being behind Cena, but I think as the match went on, they kind of turned. And I think now at this point, if you remember watching it, who did you think the favorite was going into this match?
Well, this was at a point where I was still operating under the idea that the winner of the Rumble would go on to win the title at Mania. And I think this might be the start of a run where the guy who won the Rumble didn't always win the title at Mania, or like maybe more often than not, they would lose or not win. So going into it, I thought Cena was going to win just because, he'd come back from the injury and, Orton was the heel champion. And, Triple H, Yeah, Triple H didn't really. I don't remember exactly how he got his way in the match, but it just didn't really seem like he needed to be in there. So I thought Cena was going to win, and sure enough, not only did he not win, but he took the pin in the match. So that was a little bit surprising for me, and especially to see that Orton retained. And I think he ended up losing it the next month anyway to Triple H or shortly after. So, but I thought Cena was going to win. I don't know about you.
Yeah, hashtag Cena wins. I didn't really love the ending. I believe Triple H had the pedigree on Cena, had him down for the 1-2-3. Orton comes in and hits him with the punt, and then he pinned Cena, which was strange. I hated the punt. I thought it was terrible, mainly because there's no way to really sell it, and you obviously can't deliver it. So I never liked that spot. I mean, there's a couple times he did it to people, and he connected, and it looked bad. But this one was kind of whatever, but I guess it made sense because that's why he didn't pin Triple H. He pinned Cena. It was a good match for what it was. I wouldn't go too crazy over. I think I went like 3.25 stars.